Welcome back to our city, where I'm pleased to be joined by Lisa Barron from the Army Corps of Engineers. And Lisa, one of the things we were talking to at the break about the importance of the estuary, which is how we closed the first half, but also talking about the problems and how we can restore this. And this map helps us a little bit here.
Yeah, before I talk about the actual targets and the goals that we're trying to restore, we need to obviously identify all the problems that need to be fixed. And so, because we're in an urban estuary, there's an awful lot of problems. Not to be gloom and doom, but we have a highly industrialized area, so we have contaminated sediments that pose a risk to human health and the environment. And from the Corps' perspective, an additional little problem, as we were talking about before about dredging the harbor, we've got contaminated sediments. We have to figure out what to do with them when we can't take them out to the historic area remediation site down off of Sandy Hook. So it costs more to do dredge and material management, so that's an issue with contaminated sediments. We've lost a tremendous amount of habitat. More than 80% of our wetlands have been lost and filled through development over time, as well as oyster reefs. There were 350 square miles of oysters that populated the estuary, and now they're gone. So not only habitat and contamination issues, but we also have public access issues, which are most key to the people that live in this region. They want to access this harbor and enjoy it and do great fun things on it, but you want to have access points that are there and actually are safe and functional. So
the plan you have is going to solve this.
Yeah,
but it's a long-term thing. We can't kid people, right? This doesn't happen overnight.
No, it definitely is it's a very long-term plan, and that's why this is for the future. And it takes a lot of people and a lot of money and a lot of things. But when you mentioned before about how many people were involved in the development, we really had to figure out, well, what matters to people? What do we want to restore? And so through a series of workshops, the Hudson River Foundation we hired and Cornell University to bring people together. We came up with 11 targets. I hate to use, this was supposed to be a science-based program, so target ecosystem characteristics, otherwise known as targets, and what our goals are, but they came up with 11 of them. Everyone came up with 11. So cleaning up contaminated sediments, rebuilding oyster reefs, eelgrass beds, improving public access, building coastal wetlands. We have waterbird islands right outside your door. You've got Shooter's Island and the Meadow of Isles and Prawls Island that are really applicable to this particular planning region. Coastal maritime forests, and any impediments, since you have all those tributaries as well, anything that's an impediment to fish passage we could do fish ladders, look at dam removal, and then also creating new shorelines and shallows and improve fishery habitat and also help free up and improve some water quality issues with enclosed and confined water. So
how are they all identified? How are all these identified?
How were they identified?
Yeah. True.
I think that there was a whole laundry list of things we need to fix and what our goals would be, and then narrowed them down and made them all-encompassing. So we pretty much covered everything. And even the combined sewer overflow issue, which is carrying floatables and overland runoff and contamination, that goes in with that enclosed and confined water. So trying to cover everything that would need to be improved in those 11 habitat types.
That caused a lot of pollution up until we had the Clean Water Act, correct?
Yes.
That really hurt the estuary.
Right. And not to be negative nilly on the problems, because the harbor has come a tremendous way since the Clean Water Act, and the water has been improving. But we still have a long way to go.
On that point, Lisa, when the Army Corps participates in Earth Day and other things, and you drag up all of the sea life, and you put it out for the kids to touch, and the high school students come by, I am, it's remarkable on what exactly we see in those tanks.
Right.
And that's actually taken out that day.
Right outside the door.
Shellfish.
Yeah, crabs.
Fish.
Sometimes we get seahorses.
Right.
I get excited when we get those things. But it is, I know, I always love coming here and doing the Earth Day or the Estuary Day and doing the critter tank, because the kids, they're just amazed. Wait a minute, that came from right out here. We're taking them out on our Corps vessel, taking them around and seeing the sights. Yeah, they're very, very surprised. So it does have a lot of aquatic life and diversity, but we want to improve that.
I have to tell you, Lisa, I signed a treaty with David Dinkins many years ago on Shooter's Island. And that treaty has to do with who owns what part of it, which we own a part of it. And that it has to be preserved for years to come. But I've never been on Shooters Island. I have to get there. Are you allowed to go there with the Army Corps?
We don't ever get off the boat.
I
mean, we did have a study on Shooters Island, and we're trying to revive it because I know that the Harbor Herons program is really looking at how do we restore and bring back the herons and the egrets to that island. I think, it used to be a tremendous rookery, and now there's really no active nest sites.
But I was just wondering, that was my next question. Has anybody actually walked that island to see if there are active nest sites or anything?
Yeah, they do monitoring frequently throughout all of the waterbird islands and the Audubon Society through the Harbor Estuary program. So there's an active monitoring program, and they basically just presented to us about what should be our next steps to bring them back and where should be our restoration opportunities. And that's one of the key things.
Lead me into the next question. What do we do to move forward?
Yeah, I think that one of the aspects of the plan, figuring out the where, we have lots and lots of sites that have been identified. 296 sites in the plan have been identified with 437 public access sites. Plus, we're looking at additional opportunities. And so what we need to do, because there's so many opportunities, we're evaluating them through our feasibility study. So what can you do at that footprint? What kind of habitat can you restore? How much could it cost? But then we need a lot of people to implement the restoration with us. And I think because we have the Harbor Estuary program and all the partners and NGOs and a lot of opportunities, I think there's some pots of money that could move forward as well.
Where are the pots of money? I mean, the government doesn't have any right now, so.
I know. I look to, as this harbor is industrialized, we have some potential responsible parties that might have some liability. So I look to our federal and state trustees that need to make settlements and bring back the natural resources in the region. Here are a lot of sites that they can implement. People that need mitigation sites that are developers, they can utilize these sites to implement their restoration. And as well as the Corps has existing authorities and other agencies have existing programs that move forward with restoration. But one of the key things that the Corps of Engineers was tasked to do was develop a feasibility study to give to Congress to then say, we want to fund this. So we want to implement this, which is restoring the entire harbor and getting a programmatic authorization and then having Congress appropriate. So hoping that we can be on par with the Great Lakes and the Chesapeake Bay and those other large-scale programs that are getting funds for restoration.
Lisa, and in our final minutes, this has an awful lot of numbers and points inland. Maybe you can tell us a little bit what that has to mean to the watershed.
Just so this is one map of the Arthur Kill planning region, and so each of these planning regions, these are the dots that have been cataloged restoration opportunities. And so looking at through the Harbor Estuary program and people that have nominated sites, these are on the docket. They're in the clearinghouse of sites that can move forward. And these black dots are all the public access sites. And then looking at, here are wetlands that can be restored. So looking at using geographic information system and different scientific methods to advance these. So this is a portion, I think there are 54 sites that are actually in this planning region. But you've got a lot to do in Newark Bay and cleaning up, and there's a lot more because we have ongoing studies. There's lots of more dots that are going to go on this board for the Passaic.
Further upstream and further up the Hudson River.
That have spin-off studies that are going on separately. So, we're hoping that we're going to have all this information on the Harbor Estuary Program's website, so that you can go and click on that dot and say, what can I do there, and then see how much it would cost and advance it, and leverage funds and work with partner agencies to advance restoration.
And Lisa, your role in moving forward is to make sure we start to, at some point, get funding into doing some of this as well.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the hardest part.
That is the hardest part. The Corps needs our authorization document, which is our feasibility report. So I'm tasked to getting it done, and we hope to get it done soon, in the next 2 years.
Well, Lisa, I want to thank you for all of your efforts on this estuary, as well as coming to the City of Elizabeth and explaining it to our school children, as well as our high school students, and even our adults. I mean, I didn't know what estuary was until I got involved in this, where the salt water meets the fresh water. So it's been a great education, and hopefully the City of Elizabeth is playing its part as well.
Thank you. And, well, tremendous amount of effort went into tomorrow's planning. I thank you so much for offering up City Hall and doing all the outreach.
We're going to have a good meeting.
I hope so. Thank you very much.
For Lisa Barron, I'm Chris Bolwage. We'll see you next week on another edition of Our City.